This is a film directed by Billy Crystal, of all things. Everyone knows Billy Crystal's a huge baseball fan, but he actually directed 61.
He lived it. He lived his first directing debut, and it's a story of. It's not so much a story of Roger Maris hitting 61 home runs and breaking Babe Ruth's record. It was the story of a friendship between him and you found out that him and Mickey Mantle were really great friends, and Mickey Mantle rooted for him. And Mickey Mantle hit 59 that year. Mickey Mantle is played by Thomas Jane, and Maris is played by Barry Pepper. And it was just a really good, heartwarming story about two guys that have to deal with the New York media, and it showed Maris, who's from a small town in North Dakota, just get beat down by the media and couldn't handle the pressure. And Mantle, who's this drinker and goes out dragging movie guy and parties all the time, he handled it. He handled it and helped him through it. And there's a great scene in the movie where Mantle, because of his drinking and stuff, he's in the hospital, right? And he finagles the nurses to bring a TV, and he goes nuts, a la Dennis Hopper in Hoosiers when they hit the final shot. He goes nuts rooting for Maris to break that record, and when it could have easily been him because he missed the last week of the season. So it was a race between these guys to break Babe Ruth. But the main core of that story, and I know you saw the movie, was how brilliantly Crystal portrayed the friendship between two guys that are going for a record.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. Like that really was a thing with Mickey Mantle. Here he is, the guy who's the switch hitting Hall of Famer, would eventually hit over 500 home runs, and yet he was human like the rest of us. And there was a time when Mickey Mantle was eventually suspended from baseball, a la Pete Rose, for gambling. Eventually reinstated, but that scene and that storyline in the film is absolutely inspired what happened in real life in terms of the demons that Mickey Mantle had to face. Interesting, too, the writer of this film is actually Hank Steinberg, which is not Hank Steinbrenner, the son of the owner, but I did want to mention that as well. Even though I was brain farting that it was Hank Steinbrenner, as I'm like, oh, wow, it was written by Hank Steinbrenner. Actually written by Hank Steinberg. That's on me. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is an HBO movie, so it doesn't have the big budget treatment that a lot of other movies have on this list. But when you just go down through and you look at the people that signed up and were on this cast list that make small roles throughout the film, you have Anthony Michael Hall, you have Bruce McGill, Chris Bauer, Chris McDonald. So, you have people in here that are huge in other films that, like you already mentioned, people that come in, do a day or two of work because they love, as a favor to the friend, but also because they like the script and they like what the project is doing and trying to say and the story they're trying to tell. So the fact that we have this great story of friendship between these two men, between Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle, and it's showing relatable things that they go through, the alcoholism of Mickey Mantle and the stress, the anxiety of Roger Maris, which really was a thing in real life. And if you go back and look at what happened to Roger Maris after this season, it's heartbreaking in many ways because the success of 61 in 1961 really did take a lifelong toll on Roger Maris. It really did affect his lifelong journey. So yeah, this is another good film, and that story of friendship is universal as
well. I agree, and you look at the list, and I have it at number 6, but I could change 6 through 1, but it's 1 is 1 because it had the most effect on me, and I go by the ones that had effect on me, and you're right. You said at the beginning of the show, there's 100 baseball movies, but the ones that I personally picked had an effect on me. And when it's a story about personal love between friends, and that's what sometimes themes are. Baseball is a backdrop, but you looked and he did so much research, Billy Crystal. He's a diehard Yankee fan. He lived it. He lived that. And to find out what a great guy making all the maladies that Mantle had. My God, Dragon movie guy. Huge drunk, but never, he was always ready to give an autograph. And My dad, rest in peace, said the two greatest baseball players you ever saw were Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle, and that's it. That's that New York attitude, and yeah, I wish I would have. I wish I would have been alive to see that. That's baseball in its purest form. Imagine back then. Well, the Dodgers. Imagine back then, Brian, or Dragon movie guy in the '50s when they had a triangle. You had in Queens, or you had the Polo Grounds, which was the Giants, then Yankee Stadium, then Ebbets Field in Brooklyn. And my mother, rest in peace, would tell me stories that took place in that era about everyone play was called hooky. They wouldn't go to school because a lot of those games were during the day, and baseball was everything. And the Vin Scullys and the Red Barbers and the Mel Allens and the transistor radio was everything to you and your culture as a sports fan back in that time. And look, I wish I could. I wish I would. Look, I got a part of that in the '60s, but I wish we could relive that again.
Yeah, and some of that cultural stuff it's part of the times in which the baseball it's part of the times in which we're all raised in, and some times pass, obviously, and I think the country's a lot more transitory. People move from city to city a lot more nowadays, and there's so many more distractions like the internet and your cell phones and on cable TV that a lot of that kind of that neighborhood rivalry stuff, cross town rivalry, I think has been lost to time, which is unfortunate. But we have so many other rivalries now and so many other sports, and I think it changes with time. And you're right. A lot of that being lost to time, I think, is unfortunate in a lot of ways. But it also shows where we are as a country and where baseball is too. Is changing with time.